So the last important idea I'd like to talk about is pivoting. Pivoting is a very simple thing that comes from that very process of iterating very fast. Throughout that process, you will regularly sense that you're hitting some walls, that you will be facing some very deep, very important challenge, big, important problems or dead ends that will force you to reconsider the entire project and maybe lead you to actually embark the whole venture on a totally new direction. This is exactly what pivoting is all about. It may come from everywhere. Suggestion from a customer who turned you down for 2 hours during the meeting you just had with him. Or it may come from the bitter feeling you have as the founder that you've been stuck for the past weeks in the Death Valley where you're getting a little bit of traction but nothing that matches with the level of ambition you want to have with that project. Pivoting is a central concept in the Lean Startup methodology. It's also a very hot buzz nowadays in the Silicon Valley, so much that it generates some debates. Michael Bohm, a billionaire, a very famous, successful entrepreneur, usually states in the talks he gives regularly that pivoting is a myth. His observation being that the billion-dollar successful startups that we all know about actually didn't pivot throughout their life. Personally, I think it's a matter of perspective. If it's true that the Amazon, the Google, didn't change from their core initial focus, we can still also recognize that they've been through a number of significant change throughout their life that we could call pivots. Let's remember that Google, during its early days, at first tried to license their search technology for something like $1 million to Yahoo and to other search engines. And it's because precisely they were turned down by these people that they had to figure out a way to build a business. Amazon, it took several years from 1999 to 2005, 2006 for Amazon to reach profitability. Part of it was planned, but certainly throughout that journey, the business faced a number of big problems that forced them to reconsider. The point that Michael Bohm is making is that persistence, of course, is important. Entrepreneurs can be like the weathercock that is changing based on the latest change in the wind flow. So you need a certain level of persistence, remain consistent with the global project that you're pursuing. But at the same time, you need a certain ability to learn. You need to be flexible to cope and integrate the learning that you're accumulating along the way and recognizing when the project that you're trying to build just doesn't work. And here we touch at the very heart of what I call the entrepreneurial schizophrenia. The need for the entrepreneur to simultaneously be persistent enough so you remain focused even under very bad weather, but at the same time have the agility to question, change everything that you've done so you can eventually consider a totally new direction to finally build a success. There is a whole chapter in the Lean Startup, the book, that is dedicated to pivoting. It's chapter 8, I believe. I strongly encourage you to read that chapter. Just remember two things. Pivoting requires courage because it's about having the guts to recognize that what you've been doing in the past is failing and you need to explore another direction. But also pivoting raises some significant management issues because you need to keep your team 100% motivated behind you on the project that you're trying to build, but at the same time you have to explain to them that it's time to throw into the garbage pretty much everything that we've done so far. So the question is when to pivot. Eric Ries recommends to regularly organize pivot or persevere meetings. What it means that there is no clear framework for knowing, sensing when the time to pivot has come. It is basically a judgment call, a feeling that you will have at a given point that you're stuck. Something needs to be changed to get your venture back on a successful track. The main recommendation we can make at that stage is really to stick to the principle we talked about, the Lean Startup principle. So iterating as fast as possible with different versions of your MVPs and test everything that you're doing, everything that you're thinking about with real-life customers. Clearly differentiate hypothesis and confirm learning, something that you've tested and that came back with positive feedback from customers. And have the courage and the energy to analyze every one of these learning and go deep to the root of the explanation of these feedback. One of the simple techniques that comes from lean manufacturing is to use the 5 why trick. The 5 why trick is simple, is to force yourself to ask in cascade 5 times in a row every time you're confronted to a problem, a feedback from a customer. So it kind of forces you to really go to the root of the problem. Sticking to these very simple principles will help you to understand, clarify when the time comes that it's necessary to pivot.